All right, I want to talk about lunar colonization. And the biggest difference between colonization and visiting a place is colonization is the idea that you're going to live there permanently. And if we wanted to go and put a permanent base on the moon so somebody could live there forever, we have to think about what things would be necessary for that colonization to exist. So what would you need to qualify to colonize the moon? Well, there's all kinds of challenges that we don't have on Earth. First, you have to have air to breathe, right? Really all we need is oxygen. We can live in a pure oxygen environment. We don't have to have the nitrogen and the other stuff. And so, yeah, like deep sea divers and people will actually pump pure oxygen in, they live just fine. So what we really need is the oxygen. We also need to be able to eat and have water. So we need water, we need food. We also desperately would need shelter. In fact, it's even more important on the moon because, remember, you have no atmosphere to protect you. So all those nasty, harmful rays, the X-rays, the cosmic ray particles, all these particles flying through space that get in our atmosphere and protects us being down on the surface of the Earth, you're not protected from that. So over time, that can cause a lot of damage to your body. And so you desperately need shelter. You also need some kind of energy source, something to power your colonies. Okay? You need some kind of transportation. How do you get around? How do you get to and from the Earth? All kinds of things like that. So, how are you going to do that on the moon? Well, they have found that there are some things that will work on the moon that we could take advantage of. One of the problems with bringing is you don't want to bring water to the moon. Water is very heavy, and every pound you lift into space, you have to have a lot of rocket propulsion, and that's very hard to do. And so we don't want to be shipping water to the moon. However, they have found water on the moon. They have found frozen water, or ice, near the south pole of the moon. Nobody expected them to find it. But the advantage of being the south pole of the moon is here's the moon, and there's craters down here. Well, deep inside the craters, there is ice down here. Water ice. But the sunlight never gets to it. If the sunlight hit it, it would make it evaporate away, and the water molecules would just evaporate into space. But since it's buried under the edge of the crater, the sun actually never hits it. And that's why you could go to that and mine that water. Essentially take the water, you melt it. The other idea is you don't bring water with you, you bring hydrogen. You bring hydrogen and then you combine it with oxygen. Where do you get the oxygen? Well, there's oxygen that's tied up in the crustal rocks, like silicon dioxide, and that makes like sand like we see on Earth. Well, there's also that in the moon, and you can break that apart, release the oxygen. And so then you get the oxygen, you combine the hydrogen and the oxygen together. That gives you energy through a fuel cell, but the byproduct is steam, which is water. That's what, if you ever watched the movie The Martian, that's what he was doing with the hydrogen. He was burning hydrogen. Well, when you burn hydrogen, the hydrogen combines with oxygen, produces steam, and then he would collect the steam from the air. So that is a viable way to get water if you got the hydrogen and the oxygen. The hydrogen you'd have to bring from Earth. You don't have just hydrogen sitting around the moon. All right, food. You'd have to grow your own food. And you'd have to grow your food in like greenhouses or some other way. One of the ways that seems very productive now is what they call hydroponics, where you actually grow the food in water. You don't grow it in soil. Now there have been tests done by places, certain universities that actually made soil similar to the moon soil because they brought back samples of the Apollo astronaut and they said, oh, we know exactly what chemicals it is. Let's make lunar soil, and then let's see if we can grow stuff in it. And they were able to grow stuff as long as they added certain things that they, all plants needed. So you'd have to grow your own food. So you could bring seeds and grow all your own food, and then you have to recycle the food and just grow it continuously. That's a challenge, but you can do that. Shelter, one of the ideas is to use the lunar rills. Remember, these are those tunnels. Well, inside the tunnel, you're under the earth, under the moon soil, and that protects you from the nasty rays. So when you're sleeping and eating and you're not working outside, you're protected from all the bad stuff that is what's causing damage to your body. So you don't spend all your time getting bombarded by all these nasty rays. Now, a short period of time, your body can handle it. Long period of time is not good. Energy, solar energy. You have solar energy coming from the sun. The sun shines continuously and there's no clouds, nothing to block it. You can just get that solar energy, it'll never stop. Now the thing on the moon that you want to do too is you have solar energy on all sides. So you have giant solar panels on all sides of the moon, and then you have satellites orbiting the moon, and you beam the energy to them and they beam it over to your colony in the center. And so it doesn't matter what phase the moon is, you still have some of your dishes or your satellite solar panels that are getting energy on the side facing the moon. Remember, the moon rotates 27 days, so for 14 days your solar panels are getting sunlight. And then when it rotates around, you have to have ones on the other side for the 14 days. So you essentially have solar panels all the way around the moon that are getting energy and beaming it back to your colony. Transportation, lots of different ways of transportation. So let's just look at a couple of ideas here. One of the other ways to do lunar colonization to protect you is to bring up these modules. You put them in and then you cover them with lunar soil, kind of acting like a lunar rill, and it protects you from all the bad radiation. Essentially, you're using the soil to protect yourself. So these are some artist renderings of what a lunar colony could look like. This actually came from NASA. This is one plan. Is you have these cars, but the cars can be joined together and make them into a habitat. And that habitat could be where you live, and you can produce a colony very quickly, or you can produce multiple colonies. One here, then you take your cars, drive off to another place and create another one. It's just getting all that material there, that's the hard part. Here is another idea for one. One idea is instead of making metal containers, you could actually just have big tents. You just blow it up. The atmospheric pressure would make it, keep it blown out like that. It's easier to get that. You don't have to bring all that metal, all that heavy stuff up into space, and you can produce your colonies. The problem is you don't get much protection from the nasty rays coming from the sun and the rest of the universe. All right, and then here's another idea where they have a lunar colony inside a big dome, but these are all blow-up ones. So it would be easier to create these. These are solar panels, so everything is powered from solar energy. Now the biggest question with all this is, would you go live on the moon? If there was a lunar colony and they were asking for volunteers to go live there and spend their life on the moon, would you be one of those volunteers? Now when I was younger, I would have volunteered in a second. But now it's a job for younger people, people like you. But it's something to think about. Back in the 1970s, they would have predicted by 2020 we would have a whole colony already living on the moon. Here we are 2020, we haven't gone anywhere else since then, as far as manned exploration. Now we've done tons of exploration now, but it's been all with robots. So we'll see what that happens. The problem is it tends to change every time we have a change in presidents or Congress. They change what their philosophy is. It's like, oh, let's go to an asteroid, let's go to the moon, let's go to Mars. And then they just keep doing this, and it's hard to do long-term plans that take 20 years to actually get you anywhere. They're working on it, and the plan is still to go to Mars eventually, but the moon may be a stop on the way. We'll see.